Hi guys. Well, it's Friday, the 20th of March, and I was driving past the shell factory and I saw that the demolition had begun. So I thought I'd try and document it. The demolition took place over a period of weeks, and I put away probably a good 2 hours worth of video, but I trimmed it down to what you'll see here today. Now, for those who may not know about it, the shell factory was a historic old Florida roadside attraction. It was founded in 1938, I think. It was originally up in Bonita Springs, but they moved to North Fort Myers in the 1950s. There was a big fire that destroyed the original site, and its final location was on North Cleveland Avenue in North Fort Myers, right at the junction between uh, Cleveland Avenue and Tamiami Trail. Now, it looks like the contractors got an early start, and they've already knocked down one of the exterior walls, and they're working on cleaning out the interior structure. Now, the section that they're working on is the side of the building you would see if you were coming down Tamiami Trail. In this portion of the building, they had a small company that was creating tiny homes, and looks like they pretty well got it gutted out. Now, here's a view that you would see from the inside of the shell factory parking lot between the old restaurant and the shell factory itself. And you can see that they're pretty far underway by this point. Now it's only 8:30 in the morning, but you can see that they've made a lot of progress in tearing down the structure that was across from the dinner theater and the parking lot side of the shell factory itself. Now this portion of the building is what you would see if you were seated at the restaurant and were looking directly across the parking lot. The shell factory was a major stop for tourists, often the first stop the visitors made when they visited Fort Myers. It was world famous for its massive shell collection. They had a nature park and all the souvenir shops they had inside. Now here's the big warehouse where they processed and stored all of the shells that they would sell here. And we'll take a look around the side here. We can head on back and we can take a look at where the nature park used to be. And as you can see, there's nothing left. All the cages, uh, the exhibits, the reptile house, it's all gone. So now as we head back out, you can see all these big shipping containers that are along the side of the warehouse. Now they weren't part of the shell factory. They belong to an automotive machine shop that's located right next door. They're not going to be going anywhere. All right, so while we were around back looking at what was left of the nature park, they opened up the doors to the warehouse. So let's go take a look inside and see what they got. Well, this place is pretty big inside, and it doesn't appear to have any structural damage. Looks pretty good. Move in ready. Now, this is the area that took you right up to the entrance of the nature park. And you can see there's nothing left of that either. You know, this place was a lot bigger than what it looked like. Besides all the snack bars and all the different gift shops that they had inside, they had like miniature museums on everything from pirates and fossils to exhibits on the military, the JFK assassination. And they had one room that was called the Museum of Natural History, and it had 200 taxidermied animals. You could see exotic shells, all kinds of stuff. Now I jumped on the cart and went around to the other side of the park and came in off the entrance that was off of Route 41. Take a look and see what they were doing to the smaller buildings that were around the other side of the park. Now there was an outdoor bar out behind the back of the dinner theater, and it was called the Dog Bar. And you're looking where that used to be. And as I pan around, you'll see the side of the dinner theater. And then coming up, you'll see what it looks like across the street. Now this is the area where all of the Chamber of Commerce buildings and the pizza shop and the other smaller buildings were. And you can see that they've been knocked down pretty good. Now the nature park was so popular that they created a mobile home park practically across the street where the tourists and the snowbirds could come down and bring their travel trailer and rent a spot and take advantage of the park for weeks at a time. Yeah, it was a pretty big deal in the early 60s. All the streets were named for zoo animals that you could see in the nature park. And that park eventually became a mobile home park that's still there today. Now, the demolition contractor was pretty thorough in the way they took the building down. Rather than take a wrecking ball and just smash it all to pieces and leave a gigantic rubble pile in its place, what they did is they took down smaller sections at a time. Then they went back up and cleaned up all the debris. And when they were done with a section, it almost looked as though it had been swept clean. The shell factories survived severe damage from hurricanes. There was one in the 1960s, a big warehouse fire that was in the 1980s, and then Hurricane Irma, Hurricane Ian, and Milton. And it just became too much, and they just couldn't keep it up anymore. And the place finally closed in 2024. The property sold for roughly $3.9 million, which is pretty cheap considering you're getting 18, almost 19 acres of prime land. The developers are starting to put a lot of money into North Fort Myers, and I think that that's a pretty good price. Now, this machine has a device on the end of its boom that kind of operates like a crab claw. What they would do with that was to cut through steel girders, or you could go to the top of a block wall and cut from top to bottom, just like you were cutting through paper. Now, I took this portion of video after the workers had gone home for the day, and you can see uh, how much progress they've made in taking this place down. In this view, you can see what I was talking about, how the contractor was taking out all the interior walls and they were leaving the exterior walls in place. But look how clean that is. You'd think that would be a huge rubble pile in here, but it's not. At this point in the demolition, they've taken down a good 50% of the structure. This is what's left of the building that they called the Holiday House. It was an absolutely enormous area that sold nothing but Christmas decorations. I had thought about going inside this structure and taking a look around, but I thought better of it because you just don't know how sound this structure was. But I was surprised to see just how many people were going through those buildings. They were looking through all the rooms, scavenging for souvenirs, looking for little mementos to remember the shell factory by, I guess. Here's the restaurant, the Southern Grill. Now at this point, we're about 2 weeks into the demolition, and you can see just how much has been taken down and just how clean the area is. Now in this shot, I'm standing in front of where the front wall that would have been facing Tamiami Trail was, looking across the parking lot to the back where the lake is. And you can see just how much open area there is. The trucks that hauled away all of the old building material ran probably a good 12 hours a day. It gets started at dark early in the morning and runs straight through to the evening. Now, I was told that all of this old debris is going to be recycled somehow and used again in other building projects. So nothing is going to go to waste. At this point, the demolition is probably 3 weeks in, and you can see just how much of it has been cleaned up, how much of the buildings has been taken down. Easily 3/4 of the structure is gone now, and you can just tell that this place was absolutely enormous, that you did not get the feel of just how big this place was until you removed it from the slab, and you can see just how much ground that it covered. Now, this is back over by the dog bar, behind the dinner theater, along the side of the restaurant. And you can see that this has been pretty well cleaned up. And if we look across the street, you can see where all the ancillary buildings used to be. The pizza parlor, the Chamber of Commerce building, it's all gone. It's all been cleared away. Now, if you notice, there hasn't been any damage done to the dinner theater or the restaurant or Tommy's outdoor bar, which leads me to believe that this place is probably going to remain intact. Now, whether it remains to be used as a restaurant in the future, that I don't know. Uh, but they have taken great pains not to do any damage. But I do know that this place was fully refurbished immediately after Hurricane Ian. So I wouldn't think that it would take much to get this place up and running again. Who knows? And this is a view from Tommy's Outdoor Bar. It's looking pretty empty, isn't it? Now, when I recorded this segment, it was the weekend, and the scavengers were out in force, dragging away every little bit of junk that they could find. And I made sure not to photograph any of them. But I thought, well, if they can get in there, I'll take a chance and wander through here too. Now, I spoke with one of the local city councilmen, and he told me that this portion of the building was going to remain, and they were going to turn it into a showcase. Now, what he means by a showcase, I don't know. But they are going to build new structure onto the existing structure. So I guess a portion of the shell factory is going to remain after all. Just after I recorded this segment, I passed a woman who was coming out of the building with a large metal clock. It had an aluminum frame and was shaped like a ship's wheel. I guess it'll probably end up on eBay. Now this hallway was a lot darker than what it looks like on the video, and I didn't have my flashlight with me, so rather than go bumping around in the dark, because there was plenty of things I could trip over, I just took a quick look and then headed back out. So this is the section of the building that's going to remain. Like the guy said, it's going to be a showcase. Now what he's talking about, a showcase, I don't know. But he did say that they were going to build onto the existing structure. So time will tell. At this point, it's been almost a month into the demolition. All of the major sections of the building are gone, and the emphasis now is going to be cleaning up all the rubble and debris. What a difference. Look how clean that is. And if I can steal a line from Forrest Gump, and just like that, it was done. So here's what we know. The warehouse is going to remain and be used for light industry. This portion of the original building is going to be retained and become part of a larger project. Tommy's Bar, the Southern Grill, and the Dinner Theater are going to remain as is, at least for now, but there is the possibility that it may reopen as a restaurant